right, folks. Well, thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. How's everybody doing? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming in to watch this episode. Thank you as well for hitting that subscribe button. We're into another episode here, folks. As promised, I'm going to deliver here. I spent the last little while working on this deer hide that my father-in-law had harvested this fall, and I grabbed the whole hide with the intention of processing it, um, drying it, cleaning it, dyeing it, and then ultimately tying it. Huh? Huh? So basically here I'm just gonna do an overview in this video. Like I said, I spent probably about 6 to 8 weeks drying the hide, which might have been a little longer, but I just didn't have the time to work on it yet. So I started working on the hide as of today. I think this is like around the first week of January there, still during just right after New Year's. So basically, I just, drew out some nice straighter lines with that 2x4 there, nothing fancy, and then I used a nice sharp knife to start cutting up those sections. You would definitely want to use a nice sharp knife in this situation. Don't use scissors here, and don't use something that's dull. The hide's really tough, just as tough is, if not tougher than leather. So, yeah, nice sharp knife. Make sure you're good to go there, and don't use scissors because you want to get this nice, clean, straight, smooth cut. And I would highly recommend cutting from the backside as opposed from the hair side. That's way you get these nice, clean edges. And then I kept this tacked on the nails to try and just be able to keep good tension on that hide to get those clean cuts. So, yeah, pretty much all I got to say there. At this point, there's still, don't be shy on that borax when you're drying these hides. I got lots of it. It's in the hair. It's everywhere. We're gonna still clean this. We're still gonna process it. There's a lot of work to be done here, but this is just the initial stages from me grabbing that hide, cleaning it one day, and it's been pegged out on that board drying. Like I said, 6 to 8 weeks at this point. So what I'm going to do is I got these nice big long strips. I've got those nice smaller strips. There's some bucktail to be used there, so I do end up cutting up some smaller pieces. And then these strips I basically end up cutting into.
All right, so let's go on a tour of some.
Oh, there we go. I basically end up cutting those strips into, I think, like 3 pieces each, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do now is skip over to the next clip and kind of go from there. We'll tune in, and you guys can hear me kind of talk about this hide. This is everything that I got from one deer. Think about how many deer are. Oh, we good? Is he glitching? Okay. Anyways, think about how many deer are shot and processed and harvested in New Brunswick in a season, right? Like, there's a lot of. This is one deer, and I still have another 3 bucktails in the freezer that I've got to process, dry, and dye. So, just saying. I mean, these hides aren't worth much, even dried and really cured. I think a good soft deer hide is only worth about $100 or so. And that's a lot of time and effort to get them to that process. So, as far as the application of fly tying, especially for Atlantic salmon goes, and then with the bucktail and the longer hairs and stuff like that for the striped bass fishery, a lot of material here, and don't see why it should go to waste, rotting away in the woods somewhere. All right, folks. So we'll switch the angle here, and we're gonna flip over, and I'll talk about that hide real quick, and then we're gonna jump right into dyeing it.
All right, so let's go on a tour of some of this stuff. There is a lot of material here. There is. Let's zoom right in. This stuff right here. That's like bucktail. Then the stuff on the left, right there, that's like the shoulders and the neck and around the front legs. And then that big pile is the entire hide, the back, more backs. And then some of this stuff is the belly. It's really soft stuff that I don't even know really what to do with. But a lot of really nice, beautiful, spinnable hairs. Very excited.
All right, folks. So here we are, and what we'll do is we will tune in and we will check out this. So, here we are. We are doing our first batch. I put a wood stove in my man shed there this fall, so I was pretty excited to do the first batch. Pretty traditional. Um, use the wood stove for the whole process, and it was cool. So I did it for my first batch. It definitely made things a little bit more challenging, but ultimately thinking about the whole process now, where initially I really was putting a lot of heat to this hide and stuff like that, and the hair, and then learning throughout where I should be with heat and simmering and timing and all that good stuff. This was the first batch, and it was pretty fun because I got a massive snowstorm that day. Moncton got a big snowstorm, so you guys kind of seen some of that footage. And we were just hanging out in the man shed before work and dying away. First batch, favorite color, Chartreuse. Correct me if I'm wrong pronouncing that. Anyways, um, choosing to get some batch in there, and yeah, so basically I'll hit play here. I mean, pretty simple here. Basically, I've got the dye batch mixed up. I'm using Chartreuse dye from Vinards. Man, why do I'm terrible with names. Vineyards, Vinards. Anybody who knows me knows it's just my brain. Anyways, it's like me trying to remember the name of salmon pool. Anywho, we've got the dye mixed in there at this point. I think I used like I have no clue what I used. Um, Mixed in a lot more vinegar, and we put it right to it. So I think I used at least 2 teaspoons, maybe 3, for this first batch. Quite a bit of heat, as you can see, that's boiling, and I want to say I probably cooked this stuff for like half an hour at least. The color came out really good. It's just what happens when you're gonna cook for that long, is that you're gonna start to make the hairs really crisp and crinkly, and that's not the nicer quality stuff. So anyways, what I'm doing here now is now that it's been set in and boiling, you always want to rinse that off in some nice cool water. Um, Number one, to check to see to make sure the dye is there and it's not gonna come out. The less material, you're always gonna see dye in that initial rinse because you've got dripping dye, right? Like that water's not clear; it's green water. So you're gonna see a little bit of it, right? So here's a different angle on. I don't know how I did this. I must have put everything back in because I didn't have the color the right way. That's what I must have done there. Yeah, those 2 pieces are obviously really good. Um, Happy with them because I took those pieces out and put them in the water, and then it looks like I've put everything back in. And again, don't be afraid to take some stuff out. You might at this point need to adjust dye. So I must have taken things back out, and then obviously I did that twice. So here's the final product on the first batch. Everything's drying out on a fan, on a metal screen, not a plastic screen. And hey, for my first batch, that one's cooked way too much. Um, Not too bad. Not gonna complain about that at all. I was pretty happy with the process. The dye ratio here, I'm sorry guys, I wasn't on top of it. I was just really excited for the snowstorm and my first dye batch. So, anywho, we'll tune in here for the second and the third as I start to dial things in, and maybe I can pronounce the name of the company of the dye that I'm using properly. All right, folks, we'll jump on to the next one here in a second. So, this. There we have our orange batch. I have some bucktail in here. I didn't do bucktail my first batch, so I'm trying it out the second batch. And
Well, it's getting there. A lot more yellow than I wanted it to be. It might be my own fault though. So we're gonna let that cook up for another probably, I don't know, that was it, 9:20 now. Sort of about 9:40 or 8:40. It's been half an hour, another 5 minutes or so, and we'll take that out and whatever color it is, color it is. Alright, so what we are doing here is we are dyeing the deer hide. So it's been sectioned up, it's been chunked up, it's been, and we're experimenting with the dyes. I grabbed some dyes from Vinards. I don't know, one day I'll learn how to read. And all except for one of them are all fluorescent colors. So fluorescent red, that's what this one is. And currently in the background here I'm working on my second batch. So I did my first batch was Chartreuse, and it turned out really good. My second batch taking a little bit longer. This little barbecue thing is not sufficient, so I'm going to upgrade that. But yeah, essentially what I've been doing is it's been a combination of the two. We have just some vinegar and the dye, and what I've been doing, this is a powder dye. Here, I'll show you. So this is a fluorescent orange, and that's what I'm doing right now. And well, it was a lot yellower, a lot more yellow than anything doing this, and that's probably because I left a little bit of Chartreuse dye in the pot and I didn't think properly. So what I did, this thing's about, I don't know, maybe halfway full of water. 2 cups or 2 spoonfuls of powder, and then a cup and a half or a quarter cup and a half, so 1 full quarter cup and then halfway full of vinegar. And yeah, the vinegar is what's helping that dye penetrate into the fur so that it won't come out or change colors when it's being fished and when it gets wet. So anyways, I'll show you guys this. You guys can pop off the pot there. Scratch that. It's actually taken a lot better, so I'm gonna let this simmer for another 20 minutes at least. So I'm probably gonna run inside and grab a snack, and I'll be back.
All right, folks, so tuning back in here. This is a batch at this point. I think I'm about 3 or 4 batches. This is my 4th batch. Going after the elusive machine green. Something I noticed specifically last year from some of the machine green material that I purchased is that it actually is fluorescent. When you put that stuff, the good machine green from green machines is what I'm referring to. When you put that good deer hair up to a blue light, it was actually quite fluorescent. Not as fluorescent as Chartreuse, but quite fluorescent. And as some of the material I bought for my green machines last year, it wasn't. Same color, just didn't have that same fluorescence in it. Put it on our blue light, didn't glow at all. Just looked like a dark color, like a darker green. So my goal is to make sure I had that same color green, that Kelly green, Kelty green, whatever you want to call it, machine green. But my ultimate goal was still making it fluorescent. So what I did is I ordered the fluorescent green from that dye company. Cooked it for a long time, lower heat. We'll rewind here a second. Where are we at? No, not here. Not here. Bear with me. Okay, so right here, we're going to come back here. Rewind. All right, so right here, folks, what I'm using is called a convection heater. They're not exactly cheaper. This one, again, was given to me thanks to my mother-in-law. I appreciate it. To borrow or to use. Anyways, I'm taking good care of it. Anywho, I can get that down to 90 degrees Celsius, which is pretty good. It'll keep things like I get everything up to a nice high boil. I just go max and I get everything to a high boil. Then I add my vinegar, or then I add my dye. I let the dye sit in for a little bit. I get the color that I want, so I might add a little bit more dye. And then once I get the dye color that I'm kind of after, it looks pretty well good. What I'll do is go ahead and add in that vinegar, and then I start adding material in. So, and then I cook it like this. The less material that you use, it penetrates a little quicker with, especially with the deer hide and the bigger pieces. But something particular that I found with doing that method is that how do you say it? You got to keep adding dye. So I like to, I don't know, call me lazy, whatever. I like to just get the batch in, get the color set, and leave it. Do it all at once. Not having to add more dye, not having to add more vinegar. Ultimately, I really think, as I'm saying that, I'm kind of thinking on this process, is that I think if you're really after a specific color like this, you do need to moderate it and pay close attention. You might end up adding some more dye, some more vinegar to get it to penetrate more, to get whatever you're after. Either way, I think there's several different ways to attack this. If you want to do it bulk, if you want to do small batches, go ahead. The cool thing about this is play around with it. Towards the end of this video, I've refined the process. I've got a dialed in setup that I did about 4 batches with that I really like, and that's kind of the way I'll do my dyes from now on until I learn some other different tricks and tips. So just speed along here and we'll watch this. What I actually have done too, to experiment, because sometimes I find like putting the lid on, putting the lid off, I don't know, that simmering, if it's doing good, I find it does get a lot hotter, especially at like a low 90, and even the lowest that setting that convection heater will go to is 60 Celsius. It'll still boil, like come to a boil, which I do think is a little bit too much heat. If you want to keep the deer hair nice and soft and smooth, and not get that burnt out crispy looking stuff and continue to cook these bigger batches for longer durations, you need that lower heat. So ultimately, I was always back and forth with putting that lid on, and now I'm kind of solid on no lid. And this little thing is just a little bubbler, like an aerator or whatever you call it. It's for a fish tank. I used it for other things or whatever. I just had it kicking around. So what I'm doing there is I want to keep the fur and the hair moving. I want to get the material up into it. So I've submerged this stuff with a little metal screen, and I've got that stuff. So everything captured inside of it. It's a pretty good little setup. This batch took a long time to cook. I think I was out in the shack, like this was a cold night. It was like minus 20 this night that I was out here. I've burned a lot of wood in the wood stove. But yeah, I was out there for quite a while cooking that to get that at that temperature. So I don't know. If you guys want to play around with using those aerators, I don't really think it makes that much of a difference. It might, because you're moving the hair around more. It might not. Ultimately, towards the end of the video, like I kind of keep saying, I've got a little bit more refined process, and I'm happy with what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So like I said, I don't know if I've mentioned this is my first time doing this. So this is I'm not an expert. I'll just say it. I'll throw it out there. I'm not a professional deer hair dyer. I'm learning. I want to show you guys this process and kind of what I've learned here, and yeah, take it for what it is. Be a critic if you want, or be a participant and help. So right here is something that is a very important process if you're going to get into this dyeing. So you guys earlier seen that I had cut up and sectioned the hide um, and all the fur. Now there was a lot of borax on it. It had been drying for 6 to 8 weeks. And like I said, don't be afraid to use the borax, but you're going to want to do an extra wash for each batch that you're doing, and I found that to be very important. It really helps big time with the quality. So right here, this is a simple thing. I think I'm just using some lukewarm water. It doesn't have to be hot because obviously you're going to get in there, but get right in there. You know, the hide's going to be pretty tough at this point. So just try and focus on the hair, getting the hair nice and clean, and then make sure you do a good rinse. I think I have yeah, here we go. So this is going to come in towards the end of the video, but this is kind of how I am washing now. I'm using Dawn dish soap, quite a bit of it. Just getting it right in there and making sure that I'm rinsing everything out and then leaving it in some nice lukewarm water. So I mean, it's driving the wife nuts at this point, clogging up the sink, all the deer hair. But it's nice and clean. It's nice, and I'm really happy with the product. And when you spend this much time cleaning it is very important. It's a very important process that you don't want to skip. So, and again, try and get the soap out as much as you can. At that point, it's pretty much all out. And then leave it sitting in some nice lukewarm water, and you're ready for a dye batch. So we'll skip over different screen, different angle, and we're going to talk about the refined process that I kind of dialed in for dyeing and wrap up the video. All right. So we're going to wrap this up here, folks. This is more of my refined process here. At this point, I think I've done at least 9, 10 batches. My last 2 batches I did were blue and red. Really, really proud of where the quality is with them. So I'm going to basically just do a little run through of where I situate myself and how I get situate myself. How this whole process is working out for me, where I've kind of settled to and what I'm comfortable doing now, and will continue to do from here. So this is where I'm at, and hope you guys have enjoyed everything up till this point so far. Don't forget to smash that little like button or subscribe even. Everything helps with the channel. We're we're getting there. Subscribers are growing, and the viewership, it's good. It's good. So again, there's the knife. This is some of that finer belly hair. It's super soft and super thin. I don't imagine that you're actually going to be able to spin with it, but I have been cutting it up and dyeing different colors of it in hopes of using it for wet wings and throats and butts and tails and stuff like that. I figure I can still tie with it. Might as well. Heck, you never know. You might be able to spin with it. So at this point there, I would have just cut up a few pieces. I always kind of go through things and kind of look. I always try and optimize that batch because the dye isn't exactly cheap. I mean, it's $8.98 plus tax to order it, and you don't get a lot with it. Like 2 batches is all you're really gonna get with that dye. So, and then the stuff that I was using, the other dye is called RIT, and you can get it at your local Michael's stores. I'm losing my train of thought. Sorry, I'm here. Don't worry. it's like $10. It's nothing plus tax. So, same deal with that. So choosing out some bucktail here, and there's another piece of bucktail. We should go upstairs and start washing this in a second here, and I think that's what we'll be doing next. So I've already touched on that whole washing process. We'll run that in fast speed. We want 4. Right there will do. Okay. And let's go. All right. So cleaning the deer hair, like I said, this is a process not to be skipped. Can if you want. I personally don't think it's worth skipping. When I initially watched this back in my original video of getting the dye, the hide dried and ready to preserve it, um, I washed everything with Head and Shoulders shampoo. So really, it was pretty good to begin with. But again, making sure there's no bugs in there, making sure the hair is nice and soft and clean, and there's no oils left in the hair, so the dye will penetrate the hairs a lot better. That's where this process comes in, is washing it and making sure that you've got it as degreased as possible. And really, that's where, like, there's a lot of oil in your hands, so you really should be using gloves or tongs or whatever. So, but yeah, give it a good soak down, rinse, scrub, and away you are. You are ready for the dye pot. Man, my wife, I don't know how she lives with me. Super wife is what I call her. See, look, I'm being a good Aussie. I'm cleaning up the sink. You can only imagine how much of that stuff I've missed. All right, so here we are. We got a boiling pot of water, and I think it's been adjusted back. It'll probably start to simmer down a bit. And here's our dye. So, like I said, it's $8.98 plus tax. It doesn't come with a lot, and I can do about 2 batches with it. I should mention this is for deer hair. If you're going to use this stuff for feathers, you're going to use a lot less dye. So that's 1 tablespoonful. So with the deer hair, especially the thick pieces that I'm tying and dyeing, you've got to get pretty heavy with the dye, especially this stuff that with this company that I'm using. Now, good reference point that I noticed, when you put the dye in, as long as it's good and you've got enough of it in, you shouldn't be able to see the bottom of the pot or your sides of your pot. It should be like dark. What you'll notice is that as you put your material in, and that material, especially the hide, man, does it ever suck up a lot of dye, which sucks. It's just this big, fat area in the back. So maybe there's something I should be doing differently there. But man, does the back of the hide ever suck in the dye. But if you're dyeing and throughout the process you notice that you're checking your hair, and that color of water isn't, you can see the bottom of it, it's starting to become a lot more clear, and it will, because the dye is ultimately going somewhere, and that's inside the hair where you want it. You're going to have to add some more dye, maybe some more vinegar. Ultimately, try not to add any more water, but a little bit more dye, a little bit more vinegar. Keep up with it. If you're going to be adding more dye, I recommend to add a little bit more vinegar as well. So this is just a good little way to kind of test the color on it. You might not get that color to penetrate really well, but one thing I've noticed is the color that you're seeing underneath the water, that should be the general color that you're after. At this point, I haven't added any vinegar, so get the color in, play around with your color a little bit. And then once you go ahead and add that vinegar in, that's when you're kind of locking in the color, to which I've noticed. So, oh, at this point, I forgot something. There's something I should have been wearing this entire time. When I was a ski technician at Cleves, this is my bib for tuning and sharpening and waxing. So the rep from Head gave it to me. Nathan is his name. Awesome dude. And anyways, I kept it, obviously, because it was a personal bib. I wore it all the time. It was cool. Those are far and few between. That was their old logo. You used to see those stickers slapped everywhere at ski hills, and now you can never. It's hard to find them. Yeah. So this batch, so I'd already must have just finished off on the blue. My last 2 batches that I did were red, so this is fluorescent red. Again, same deal, same amount, same process. Process. The dye is in there. Probably toss a little sampler hair in there if I don't already have it in there. just dump the rest of it in. I already used that, so I really didn't have. I only had about half, so now I'm out of fluorescent red. And I got some on my hands. So at this point, it'd probably be a good idea to have gloves on. But honestly, I mean, you're not. I have the window cracked downstairs, so every area that I'm using this stuff, the vapors are going somewhere. I'm in an aerated area. I'm in a big open space. I have access to fresh air. I'm not too worried about the chemicals in the dye and the vinegar cooking off. For the amount of chemicals I've inhaled through grinding, being around welding, rusty metal pipe, all the other chemicals I've worked with, ski tuning, and all the other chemicals, materials I've worked with my hands. I'm not worried about a little bit of vinegar, but I would err if you guys are do err on the side of the caution, which is never a bad thing. Using a mask here, using some sort of respirator, never a bad thing. Using gloves again will stop your hands from dying, getting the dye in your hands, which I'm sure can't be the greatest for you. But this is me. You guys are talking with here. You're gonna get some things, and you're gonna get other things. It's just one of those other things. So the dye is in at this point. One thing that I will tell you that'll happen is that as soon as your deer hair goes in there, where the hide's been really stiff, it's gonna go in and the hide's gonna get really soft, and it's gonna curl up on you. So try as best you can to keep all the hide and the hairs down into the water. You might have a hard time with that, especially at the beginning when you first put it in. Um, but the longer it's been sitting in there, initially, if you need to take things and kind of push it down, but eventually the deer hair will absorb water and will start to soak in a lot better, and you'll be able to. The longer you cook it, the easier it'll get to work with. But again, low heat and a long amount of time is what it's really going to take. Is what I've really noticed. It's taken to penetrate these types of deer hair, especially the natural color deer hair. I guess I should really add that too. That is 95% of what I'm working with is the natural colored deer hair. I left all the white for as pure white because I like the white bombers with orange hackle is one of my go-to bombers. So I'm just gonna reverse that for a second. Right here, I added the hair in, and then I got things soaked in. I got things looking pretty good, and then I've gone and added the vinegar in. So that's something that you don't have to do. I think I probably forgot to do it, but either way, get the dye and the color in first, and then get your vinegar in. Um, I don't think I had a favorable choice whether or not I was adding the vinegar when the hair was in there or not. And I started going pretty heavy with the vinegar. Right there is pretty much a full cup of vinegar. That measuring cup that I use is a quarter of a cup. So about a cup of vinegar in that size pot for as much water and deer hair as I had in it is good. And like I said, if you're gonna have to add more dye at some point, add a little bit more vinegar in with it to make sure that that new dye, the color is setting and the color is mixing well, and then it's gonna again further penetrate because a lot of the dye, and again, the vinegar is burning off in a vapor, so you're losing that penetrating power and so on and so forth. So, like I said, in the beginning, you might want to weigh down, or put some weights or something on your deer hair and your hides to get everything to fully soak in, so it's not as buoyant. So for maybe a good the first timing of this, I think I usually put a bunch of stuff in there and just push it all down. I was using the metal screen, but I don't know at this point. I have the metal. Oh no, the metal screen. I don't know. It's permanently blue. My bad. I should mention at this point, when you're dyeing this stuff, using stainless steel is probably one of the better ways to go with it. A good stainless steel that doesn't have any scratches in it. The stuff with Teflon, and especially where the Teflon has been worn off, where there's rust, the dye will penetrate right into it, and you're not going to be able to get it out after. And then every dye batch that you use, that dye is always going to bleed through. So I have a pot back there that's permanently stuck for blue. Oh no, black was the last thing I used in it, so it's the black pot for now. Um, Anyways, this is stainless steel, and same with that little tin there, that little salad bowl that I've been using. They're both stainless steel, and they both have been working really well. I'm going to pause it here for a second. Cleaning them out with just alcohol is all I've been using to clean them out. So just like 99% alcohol. rubbing alcohol, whatever you want, is all I've been using to clean them out. I've heard that spray 9 also works really well on this dye to clean your stuff out, but each time you do a dye batch, make sure that you're cleaning it out really well because you really don't want to get the old color of dye stuck in with your new. I made the mistake once and I suffered for it. I had to use a lot more of the orange, fluorescent orange, because it was going yellow on me. And anyways, so all right, so wrapping this video up here, folks. The end process is the hide, so the actual backside of the hair. There's a lot of material that I left on it, or that was left on it over, and it dried up in the drying process over the 6 to 8 weeks. So this is your opportunity when you're finally taking everything out. That's your opportunity to get it out, and man, does it ever make the hide nice and soft and nice to work with. You can bend it; it doesn't crack on you. Um, just a lot nicer. So at this point, again, me working with my hands, use gloves if you want to. Obviously, if you've got the right amount of penetrating material in there, being the vinegar, you're going to see the dye running out because obviously, again, the color of your water is the color of your dye. But that dye should already be penetrated. It shouldn't be making your hands crazy colors, and yeah, shouldn't be changing the color of that very much. That's how you know. So anyways, back to that. So I've treated it, and I've basically just used my hands to smoothen it out, make it as smooth as possible, as clean as possible, and then when it dries up, it's a lot nicer. It's not that crisp hard stuff. It's the nice movable, flexible, nice hide. So get all that junk off there because it dries up solid. Here's a nice big piece that'll do, and I mean, I would be careful with this, especially depending as if you got that stuff too. Here goes some more vinegar, and probably noticing that the dye is not as thick because I'm taking dye out with material. So, um, just use your hands and try to be careful with this because you can rip the hide very easily. The hide is very like flexible and very fragile. It's really easy to rip. So that's why I'm just using my hands. I've got rough hands. Um, yeah. So again, just rub it all down, get it all out, and get all that stuff off the back of the hide. You don't have to if you don't want to, but this is something that I clued into um, in my process, and man, does it ever clean things up nice. And again, get all that stuff out of the hair. Sometimes I find, especially when you're cooking long periods of time, if the piece of deer hair was stuck in there, that's where the crispy stuff comes from. If it's stuck up against the side of the pot or stuck to the bottom of the pot or something. And so what happens with some of the dyes, especially the cheaper dyes, it like gunks up into this crusty stuff. So at this point, I go through the hair and get all that stuff out as much out as possible. So wring all that out, give her a good shake, and yeah. I think this is just one last example, one last big piece. So again, you can really see how much material, and this is just the way that the hide was fleshed and the way that I cleaned it. Might do things a little bit differently next time. We'll see. But yeah, you can see all that darker stuff there, so it'll come right off. It's kind of on my hands there. Doesn't take much to come off. Just keep rinsing it. I've been down here like editing most of the day, just so you guys know. My day off. It's been a fun episode to edit, but it's been tricky. I'm gonna maybe looking at a new editing program to help out with this. So there we go. Look at that piece of hide, nice and clean. All that stuff is off of it, and it dries a lot nicer. It look good. It looks a lot better than when it did initially, eh? When it first went in there. And just an example of the hair. I like to split it apart and make sure that it's all the way penetrated, like all the way down. You don't want to see any white, anything left. You want to see all full color. So after that, I just keep a towel laid down there. It's permanently the dyeing towel, and just pat things down. And then I put them onto a metal screen. Oh, I can't forget my thing there. I always put things onto a metal screen, and I have just let things. I'll put them on the dryer for a little bit. I'll like a heater on them for a bit, but then I just leave it out for 2 or 3 days on a metal screen to dry. And you'll see the end video clips here of what the drying looks like and how everything's finished up. But that's pretty much the whole process for me. Hey, look, I'm wearing the same shirt then as I am now. This stuff, I think after I cleaned the hide up a little bit, I might have put it back in for a little longer. I might not have been happy with it. But yeah. Where is some other stuff? Oh. But put it onto the towel there, and we'll speed that up. Nah, we don't need to really. There you go. The final. All right, folks. So a couple last clips just to finish things up here, and we'll see where we're sitting. But that should pretty well wrap up the video. I just want to show you guys what the drying setup looks like, and then I did a little bit of a tester. I basically filled up a couple glasses of water. I tied up a bug of each color, and I just dropped them in the water to make sure that they're going to hold. Everything was really good. All right, we're just about ready to wrap things up here. I did want to show you guys quickly. I'm gonna turn the volumes down on these. My drying setup. So, like I've said a few times, I choose to use a metal screen. Number of reasons why, or two reasons mainly, is that from drying other things, metal is a lot nicer. You're not getting the plastic and all that other kind of grossness into whatever you're trying to preserve, as well as it can withstand the heat better. It also is metal, so it holds heat and disperses heat better if you put it on a wood stove and you're trying to dry it out, or if you're putting heat underneath, the heat disperses a lot better on a metal screen as opposed to a plastic one. So eventually, just oh wait, pause it here. Look at that bucktail. I'm pretty happy with that selection of bucktail. That's just the samplers. I'll probably use that for like mainly my black salmon flies. But I have 3 other bucktails in the freezer, frozen right now, ready to go. I'm gonna do a separate video on an entire overlay of them. I don't know if I'll include the fleshing part because of the issues with YouTube and so on, animal cruelty and stuff like that. But once it's fleshed, and I can do the same thing I did with the deer hide one, and same thing with this, but just do it all in one. And those 3 bucktails, I'll section them, and that'll be all the bucktail that I'm going to use. I'll probably still use some of it for black salmon. So use some of it for that stuff for the striped bass. So, anyways, just I've got it in totes now. Got the lids off of it. There's the red bun. There's the orange. There's blue, aqua, and teal. There's black. Look at that, isn't that? That's the Rit stuff. There's fairy brown, and there's my fluorescent green. So out on a drying rack, out in the open of the room, in a nice dry area. Dry it slowly is a really good process. If you dry it too quickly with too much heat, again, and with all that crud on the back of it, we'll pause here for a second, you're going to get into those pieces of deer hair that'll really crumbly and really kind of stiff, and you have to break them into pieces and they cut your hands. And, yeah, anyways, they're not that bad, obviously, but if you want those nice soft hides, what you want to do is get all the material off when you're done cooking it and then dry it nice and low and nice and slow. All right, so this part right here is me. What I did is spun up some bugs on some number 6 Daiichi hooks. Daiichi, again, mean words. And I put them in water. At this point, I just took this video today to cap things off here. At this point, these bugs have been sitting in this water for 4 days. and the color is holding really well. The red is bled out a little bit, the black a little bit, the orange and blue aqua are perfect. The red's bled out a little bit, you can see it there, and the green is bled out a little bit too. But again, not much. I'd say the worst out of all of them, the red bled a little bit, but yeah, that's pretty much the tester on that. I think I'm gonna just leave them in there, at least for a week, and then I gotta put something on those. Maybe tie in just hackle for those bugs, and we'll use them for trout or something. Those are the tester bugs. They got a hook. I got a hook a salmon on them. They don't need a tail to hook a salmon or crystal flash. So anyways, I just wanted to show a little overview of the dyes that I've been using. This is the stuff that I got from Michaels. It's called RIT. Comes in two different versions. There is a liquid version, which I used for my aqua. You guys didn't see that. I didn't record for it. Sorry, my apologies. This stuff's not bad. It's not as good as the stuff that I bought specifically for tying flies. And you'll see that in a second. But this stuff, for being sourced locally and it being readily available quickly at a multiple of Michael stores, it's really good. It is really good. The powder, I would say, if you buy the powder over the liquid, the powder is a lot better. But the powder, again, they don't like to give much of it away. It's only good for like one batch. I used one box of powder for that entire black batch, and I used a lot of material, mind you, but it took the entire thing. It needed all of it. So this is the RIT. I'm going to play with these three colors to come still. I haven't done these three colors yet. So purple, lemon, and petal pink. And then Menards. There we go. That is the dye that I ordered. I ordered it from Flymart. I know local stores should be able to get it as well. I needed the haste of it, and I had a contact there that I made a phone call to, and it was sent to me within a couple of days. So I just got it. I don't know. I don't know if I'm stuck with that stuff. I love the fact that it comes in fluorescence. Fluorescent dyes is a big thing for me. It's something that I've glued onto that I like in my flies. Call me crazy, call me whatever. But I enjoy using it. I like using it, and I'm going to continue using it. So for the Vennard dyes, I will probably be ordering more from who. I will definitely order it and source it locally from a shop here within the Maritimes. I know the fellow there who's got Escape Anglers now and PEI. I believe he has it in stock. Haven't talked to Sid yet at the Trout Brook Fly Shop, and I didn't shoot Jason a message to see if they're carrying any. I don't see a problem with any of the other two stores, Sid or Minnow, being able to get this stuff for anybody who needs it. It is on Flymart, but I will let you know one issue I had when ordering through Flymart is they did short order me and didn't even call me to tell me. So it left me a little upset when I got my order. I was short ordered with a note that said, "Oops, we'll get you on a reorder." So I called back and I said, unfortunately, I would just like a replacement color, and I got another replacement color sent out quickly enough, but still, I don't really like that. That's why I enjoy ordering and getting everything locally from people that I know will take care of my orders and stuff. Coming from a guy who works in the shipping industry, I appreciate people that do their job well and take care of stuff, especially when things are moving and traveling in transit. So, anywho, folks, last thing that I am going to touch on here is I am officially a regular member with the MSA. I don't know why I haven't done this years ago. I should have. Slapped me inside the head. Anybody that I know who actively fishes and targets Atlantic salmon, although you purchase a license and you are, by all means, have every right to fish with just that license, I do highly recommend heading over to the MSA website and at least purchasing a $50 yearly membership. I'm in no association with the Miramichi Salmon Association, but watching them through social media, hearing about all the good work that they do and have done on the river for years, this is an association that we can all stand by and donate. They do a lot of really good work. I have plans to get in contact with them and try and volunteer as much as I can for them and help promote if they're interested. They have a fantastic YouTube channel. They do really good weekly uploads or weekly fishing videos and stuff like that, and uploads on river conditions, fish counts, the efforts that they're taking towards conservation. Very cool stuff. Very good organization. $50 regular membership. Receive our membership package, which includes membership card, a decal, and a letter from the MSA president. So cool. goal for me and my channel is I want this YouTube channel to eventually earn enough money to be able to give the MSA $5,000 for a membership and continue on. And I think it'd be a really cool organization and really good people to meet. And I'm excited for the season coming. So, anywho, folks, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate everybody watching this episode. Struggled with it. By all means, I'm an open book. Shoot me a message if you guys need more detail. If I didn't include enough in this video, I tried the best I could with my editing program and what I've got for filming capabilities. And I really went for it. I figured out the process. I talked to a couple people, some shout outs to some buddies and anybody who reached out to me and explained some of this stuff to me and pointed out some key tips. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that advice, folks. Not much more to say. Moving forward, excited for the next episode. We will see you guys next time. Thank you very much for tuning in.